Hi, I am Deepika Singhania and I'm going to present Post to Find Multi-Resolution TCN, joint work by myself, Rahul Rahman and Angela Rao. We start with what is complex activity videos. Multiple sub-actions taking place over time and makes a complex activity video. For example, a video of making egg can be considered as a complex activity and the sub-actions taking place in it are butter pan, take egg, crack egg and fry egg. What is the task related to complex activity? We look at two tasks related to complex activity. One is the activity recognition, where we are giving the entire video and we need to classify this video. For example, we need making egg. And the second task is temporal segmentation, where we temporarily classify each frame of the video. Like where we see this frame is classified as butter pan and the next one as steak egg and so on. Coming to related works for action recognition, we first talk about short trim videos, which are of 2 seconds to 10 seconds, which is mainly handled by deep 3D convolution architectures. It can be a single 3D convolution architecture, that is C3D, a two-stream 3D convolution architecture like I3D, or some slow or some less channels and some more channels, slow faster fast networks. However, when we look at the longer untrimmed videos of complex activity, the cost of directly training these deep 3D ADCNN models is computationally very high and also data deficient. For both recognition and segmentation of long complex activity video, it is actually standard to extract snippet level feature based on I3D, C3D, and then adding additional dedicated sequence level processing. The sequence level processing can consist of a simple LSTM, or the most popularly used sequence level architecture is temporal convolution networks. Inside the temporal convolution network, there can be two most popular architectures. One is the without reduction wavenet-like architecture, MSTCN, and the other encoder-decoder architecture, which temporarily reduce and then expand the outputs. Our proposed model is based on the encoder-decoder architecture. One major problem of over-segmentation and one major problem of temporal segmentation is over-segmentation, where we see the outputs over here and here are more over-fragmented than the ground truth. To handle over-segmentation, the popular approach is to add additional boundary detection network and then add a post-processing over the standard TCNs to get less over-fragmented outputs. In our proposal, however, we do not require any additional architecture and we propose two simple strategy. One, and C2F ensemble of the decoder layers of encoder-decoder architecture, and the second is multi-resolution feature augmentation strategy. So we start with a base encoder-decoder architecture where the encoder reduces the original temporal dimension Tn to the bottleneck dimension Tn by 64, and the decoder gradually recovers the sequence back to Tn size his output. Instead of the standard practice of adding a heading in cross entropy loss at the very last layer of the decoder, here we project each layer of the decoder to the probability class vectors. As the outputs of the decoder are of different temporal resolution, we first upsample all the probability vectors to Tn size by linear interpolation. Finally, From those upsampled outputs of the decoder, we calculate a weighted average sum to get a hit our PET ensemble representation, which we use for both training and inference. There are several advantages of using coarse-to-fine ensemble. The first being it mitigates over-segmentation. So the blue patch which had come on the last layer of the decoder is actually removed in C2F ensemble, and the C2F ensemble output best matches with the ground truth. Plotting the MOF edit F1 scores, we find that the fourth decoder layer has the strongest individual performance. However, these results erode as we go to further decoding layers. But we see that at C2F ensemble will yield significant boost in all the scores, especially edit distance in orange color, which is the measure most affected by overfragmentation. Here we plot her different decoder layer, her outputs with calibration. We see that different in decoder layer, her outputs are overconfident, and C2F ensemble is most calibrated headed amongst all the decoder layer. Finally, we see that there is a significant improvement in all scores across all datasets by the incorporation of C2F ensemble over our basic encoder-decoder model. Multi-resolution feature augmentation strategy. For this, we subsample our input representation to obtain the downsampled feature vector and its corresponding output. Instead of standard subsampling random frames, we max spool across a particular window to obtain our feature representation. And instead of max spooling with a fixed window size, we actually consider windows of different sizes. This creates our augmentation strategy for both training and testing. So numerically, at time t, for a temporal window WT to WT plus W, we max spool the features along the temporal dimension to obtain our representation FTW. The ground truth for the subaction for the corresponding feature representation FTW is a subaction label which most frequently occurred in the same window. So for example, if all four her features are of the same subaction with a window size W, we have a gray color. If 3 are of the subaction blue and 1 of subaction yellow, we take a blue as our subaction and ground truth. During training, we use a set ahead of windows for W to get ahead our feature and ground truth pair here, and we call it de-augmentation. Basically, the downsampling in the augmentation strategy helps making it more computationally efficient. In contrast to MSTCN, we show that even after downsampling, we do not decrease in results. In fact, the augmentation encourages model robustness with respect to multiple temporal resolutions, which in turn helps in increasing our model accuracy too. During the test time, we have multiple resolution prediction for the same video. So we interpolate all the resolution outputs to the original temporal dimension Tn, and finally we get the ensemble prediction output to get our final prediction result. Here we show the multi-resolution train augmentation strategy, improving the scores in all 3 datasets across all the matrix. And even the test augmentation strategy, he gives a significant boost in all scores across his all data sets. Coming to training losses, how do we train a network? We follow the standard 102 training losses. This is the cross entropy will be classification loss, and the second the transition loss, first which encourages that the neighboring frames aims have the same action label. In addition to these losses, we introduce another other loss, which is a video level action loss. So the intuition behind video level action loss is the predicted output is more over fragmented. So it gives some extra segments in the video. For example, it may give crack egg heck in a making making coffee video. The standard cross entropy loss would penalize it in the same way as the other losses, as the other wrong but feasible actions. So to penalize the incorrect correct action segment, we propose his video level action loss. So basically, we from the original ground truth segmentation label, we calculate the hit or we find out the set of unique ground truth actions present. Then from a predicted probability vector, we calculate the set of actions predicted by the maximum probabilities. In these two, we apply a binary cross entropy loss, where we see that this orange segment would be penalized as for having an extra over fragmented output. For the video we define an AV, a subset of A, to be a set of unique ground truth actions present in that video. And delta K present is an indicator function where the action to indicate whether action K is present in the video or not. Pi K present is the maximum action probability assigned and to that class across the whole video when we max pool across the whole video. And we then apply a binary cross entropy loss with delta pi K present and pi K present. We see that the video level action loss first gives us the maximum improvement in the breakfast data set, which has the largest number of actions and does largest over fragmentation error. We also adapted our video segmentations C2F encoder decoder architecture to classify the complex activity. For doing the same, we max pool over time across the whole temporal segmentation output, and then apply 2 layers of MLP followed by a softmax and then a cross entropy loss. The max pooling across the temporal dimension actually helps in retaining the information over time, and it is invariant to permutation of actions within a video. So it is good for recognizing the complex activity. In recognizing the complex activity, we hit the previous state of the art by 21% when using the same non-fine-tuned features, and we exceed by 5% with the non-fine-tuned features. It is when the previous state of the art uses a fine-tuned kinetics fine-tuned features. Now we compare to the state of the art for the temporal segmentation. We see that we improve in most scores across all data sets. Apart from the scores, we show that our architecture is computationally efficient in terms of the average time per video compared to MSTCN in blue, and in terms of the maximum memory used of the GPU compared to MSTCN in blue. Also our model gives his better calibrated outputs. So our final predictions in blue is much more calibrated than C2F ensemble in black, which itself is more calibrated than MSTCN++ in orange. And over here we plot the density of entropy probability for all incorrect predictions. Our C2F ensemble ML in black is more uncertain about the wrong predictions than the MSTCN in orange. So in conclusion, a novel C2F ensemble model, multi-resolution feature augmentation strategy, and video level action loss is computationally more efficient, more calibrated, and gives significant improvement in leaderboard scores. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepika. Thank you for the interesting talk. People can ask questions over the chat or directly speak up by unmuting. So I have one question regarding the features for like per frame images, right? So here bunch of images are aggregated together. Their features at different granularity in the time domain, right? So what features for the images are being considered before temporal aggregation?
So it is the I3D features which is used. So basically I3D is snippet level feature, and it's for the 2 seconds time window headed over time. And so actually I3D also has in its last layer the max pooling concept. So we use that same concept to have our multi-resolution augmentations.
Hmm. Yeah, and for the main task here is, so there seems to be two tasks, right? One is the action recognition tasks is helping in the video segmentation task, at least in this work, right? So I was wondering whether if just the encoder decoder framework without the action labels can do reasonable video segmentation. For example, if in certain cases, for let's say we don't have action labels but we have lots of videos and we just want to have pre-trained an encoder decoder with this multiples granularity in the time domain, and later on if we have a few labeled videos, for those like have the final fine tune with the action labels. So I was wondering, will this framework work in that scenario where we don't have a lot of labels for actions, but we can pre-train, and it without the action labels also it gives reasonable segmentation performance. Uh,
Yeah, so yeah, actually it is applicable able, and we are actually we worked upon on the unsupervised learning with our model, like a semi-supervised version also. So in that head, basically what we do is use these augmentations and use a contrastive loss to bring these augmentations nearby, and then after that use some segment label videos, and finally give the accuracy of semi-supervised learning. So yeah, it works pretty well in that scenario also.
So before the labels and after the labels, what was the tentatively what was the jump in performance? Like by how
So
much factor the performance improved? To say,
like when we train it unsupervised, so it's unsupervised accuracy of just by, if we just evaluate it by a linear something, then it was around like 60% around, and when we include around 10% of the data, it went up to 68% around. When you're completely supervised setup, we get around like 76% around. So it yeah, this augmentation used with some kind of contrastive learning does has help a lot for the unsupervised setup also.
And for the contrastive setup, how do you decide the negative examples? Like, do you just get from a video which is not labels from the videos which are not the input video, or how do you set up the negative examples in the contrastive case?
So first is we used a simple k-means over the batch, and we get some segments based on those k-means. And in that k-means basically we bring in the frames which lie in the same cluster of the k-means to be nearby, and we add a condition that if the frames is just near to the video, it is in the positive sample, and if the frames are far away from the video, or if it lies is in the different cluster of the k-means, then that is a negative sample. So it's kind of that uh, these conditions the contrastive learning was based on, like
Hmm. Yeah.